vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. Om Shanti. We welcome you all in the Shankar Lodge Saturday evening meeting, Delhi, this 28th day of May 2022. We are privileged today that among us is Brother N.C. Krishna, a national lecturer, who will share his thought today on the topic study, meditation, and service. Most practical topic, I'll say. Brother N.C. Krishna ji is a qualified chartered accountant by profession. He has joined the Theosophical Society at a very young age of 16 years in the year 1966. He was inspired after observing his maternal grandfather, who was staying in Adyar in Theosophical Society International Headquarters campus itself, where Brother N.C. Krishna ji was brought up. He was later settled in Hyderabad. He is a national lecturer appointed by Indian section. He aspires to be remembered as a person who tried studying and living theosophy, which in other words may be termed as the divine wisdom. Now, without taking any more time, I request Brother N.C. Krishna to please take the mic and share the teachings of Theosophy on the important aspect of study, meditation, and service. Brother N.C. Krishna.
Thank you, Brother Mathurji, and thank you all for attending. And Brother R.K. Mathur has helped me by choosing the topic study, meditation, and service. And these are the three words which I have heard number of times in the theosophical circles and in the lodges. And most of the senior members of the Theosophical Society used to call these as SMS, not the SMS which we are familiar with, but then they abbreviated as study, meditation, and service into SMS. And senior members used to exhort the junior members, younger members who have joined just then, to make these three aspects, the very important aspects of one's existence in the Theosophical Society, as part of one's daily life. So, study, meditation, and service, we can say, are the three very important aspects of any member of the Theosophical Society who would like to be a serious member of the Theosophical Society. Leave alone becoming a theosophist, that's, of course, yes, something which may happen in course of time. We will examine one by one. First, we'll take up study. The word study has various dimensions and connotations. There are different shades of meaning to this word. One usually reads a newspaper. This is what we say. One usually reads a newspaper, or we can even say one reads a novel. There is an air of casualness when you are saying that we are reading. There is an air of casualness when we say when we are reading. But a casual reading also sometimes leaves an indelible impression on the minds of the people who, say, read through a novel, for example. I'll give an example of a character by name Howard Rourke. from the novel The Fountainhead, written by Ayn Rand. So when I read that novel for the first time, that character Howard Rourke stood in my memory for quite some time. Even now, he is there very much as a person who believed in certain values. Even if it's a casual reading, the impact is noticeable sometimes. But then we are talking about a different type of study or different dimension of study. And the meaning of the word study is more is going to be more profound than reading. The act of studying is a serious attempt, serious attempt to grasp the contents of the study material or the book which we are studying. The person who is engaged, the person who is engaged in studying is making an attempt to understand the subject in the right perspective, in right direction, and he would definitely would like to understand that book or the subject read properly. And the most beneficial thing would be to apply the essence of that study. If that percolates into daily life, that would be really the ultimate thing which a student would like to have. During my student days, I came across a book titled How to Study by Harry Maddox. That book was intended for those students who are helping themselves to achieve a degree or academic excellence. So some of the points which he mentioned, some of the points which he mentioned, Harry Maddox mentioned, are useful to persons like us who are perhaps studying, say, theosophy or other literature like Upanishads or anything for that matter, which is of value to our life, which will add value to our life. The point number one, which he says, one has to choose a place of study. One has to choose a place of study. Not everybody perhaps has a room exclusive as a study room, but then he says one has to choose a place to study, maybe choose a corner of a room, and where only study is undertaken, no other activity is done there in that corner, and the place of study is not changed frequently. So to say, it is something which is chosen, and person would like to stick on with that position, stay on in that position, in that corner of the room where he has chosen to study. And that will be the fixed place chosen for study. That's the first rule he had said in that book. The second one, the second suggestion he made, the student has to choose and settle for definite hours of study so that the mind gets used to the habit of studying at that particular time. The student has to choose and settle for definite hours of study so that the mind gets used to the habit of studying at that particular point of time. Normally, they say, as far as the Indian study hours are concerned, the early hours of the day are best suited for such studies, which will help the individual to evolve and progress. To draw a personal note, I have seen my grandfather as a young, maybe 4 or 5 year old kid, studying early morning with the help of a hurricane lamp. Those days we didn't have power and electricity in our home. So he used to study, and he was studying, I'm sure, the literature of theosophy using a hurricane lamp. So early hours of study were something which he chose to benefit himself during those hours of study. And the third point he mentions, Harry Maddox mentions, study sessions of say half an hour each, recollection sessions, and making notes for another half an hour. So one half an hour for study, another half an hour for recollecting and making notes. And he also talks about revision of portions studied for better reproduction during the examinations time. So this is what he has suggested for a student who is pursuing academic studies. Well, the above a few points suggested in address to the student, as I have said, who is perhaps trying to pass an examination to acquire a degree. But when we think of the above principles or methods, they're equally applicable. They're equally applicable for those who want to study, say, theosophy. So, study as opposed to reading is a serious attempt to diligently understand the subject chosen for study, and study is also to assimilate. Study is also to assimilate and arrive at the essence of that session of study. And yes, we make notes of that study, we make revisions of that study, and the essence is applied in our life, in our daily life. So, this is how the study is going to be of benefit to us. There are various schools, various philosophies propounded by certain ashramas, and the purpose of study in those ashramas, sometimes it is salvation, sometimes it is to know things. With the subject dhatu, with means to know. So students learned Vedas from the Guru by listening to the chanting which he would give. So that learning was through the from the mouth to the ear. But now we have the print media and we have the books and all that. So we have a different method of study. So study is not mugging or by hearting. It is an intelligent way of studying, understanding, assimilating, and drawing the essence. One is not supposed to be engaged in the act of studying only to appear to others as well-informed person. One is not supposed to be engaged in the act of studying or in the pursuit of studying to appear to others as well-informed and erudite. The purpose of study is not to show that I know. Actually, the purpose of study is for progressing and evolving and to enable us to walk on the path. Mostly, mostly, study is supposed to be swadhyayana, meaning self-study. Mostly study is supposed to be swadhyayana, self-study. Yes, we have group study also in the lodges, but then the study which we make at home, and then the same portion perhaps if all of us have decided to study in the lodge, I think each one will be able to contribute better because they have studied that portion which has been decided as the portion to be studied in the lodge the next week. At home, suppose I made some exercise, then I would be able to contribute my understanding to the study sessions at the lodge. So mostly study is supposed to be swadhyayana, self-study. Sometimes when called for the sharing of knowledge, sometimes when the person is called to share the knowledge, we do it very humbly, share the contents and the essence of study, maybe in our own words, because if we repeat the words which are there in the book, we're only perhaps repeating what Madam Anibison said or what Mr. Bishop Ledbeater has said and things like that. But then, if I've understood, if I've really understood and made an essence of that in my own words, and I own those own words of mine, which I have carefully written it down. So if I present those words, those contents, I think it will be more fruitful. Yes. And we share our ideas with those brothers who are like-minded. We offer our viewpoint not as dogma, not as a siddhanta, but we offer it as an offering of one's understanding of the subject in simple, easy, practical terms. We don't offer our study as dogma because theosophy itself says it's not a dogma. So we cannot further add on and say, this is like this and nothing more than this. This is how it has to be understood. I cannot perhaps draw lines like that. So I cannot offer it as a dogma, but offer it as an offering for one's understanding of the subject in simple, easy, practical terms. In the context of study, which we undertake theosophically, the aim is not to make personal progress. This is something which has been said again and again. In the context of study, which we undertake theosophically, the aim is not to make or mark the personal progress, but the wisdom gained through study when I have allowed the ideas which I have gathered and I have contemplated on those ideas and I have left those ideas into the ether, they're supposed to be useful for the entire humanity, whoever wants to draw it. So the purpose of study, theosophically speaking, more importantly, is to also know oneself. Like the Delphic statement, the Greek statement says, know thyself. That's perhaps one of the reasons why, one of the very good reasons why we study theosophy. The wisdom gained, the wisdom gained should enable us to get attuned to that one universal eternal self. That's the whole idea. So we know we are a small unit of consciousness, of the universal consciousness. So we are studying to know ourselves better, all the ingredients of what makes me. And then I try to attune myself to that one great eternal self. It is said, no individual, no individual can hope to attain perfection. It is said, no individual can hope to attain perfection unless the whole of humanity achieves perfection. So it is not for me to go up the ladder and stay there, but I am there taking people along with me, traveling along with others to see that everybody progresses, everybody achieves perfection. Masters and the Lord of the world. See, we know certain people have come from the Venus, and one such person whom we call is Sanat Kumara. They are not changing their dimensions and their positions. In fact, masters have their own progress to achieve, but then they are staying back to help humanity. So even Sanat Kumara has said somewhere, it's not an authentic quotation, but I'm just giving a summary of that. Until each blade of grass reaches perfection, Sanat Kumara will not change his dimension or position. So that's, I believe, the commitment they have for the upliftment of all living beings. So we should remember these lofty ideas when we are studying. So we study theosophy to get the right inputs to lead the right kind of theosophical life. We study to realize that we are that inseparable part of that universal whole, that part of unity we try to realize through our study. How to study the theosophical texts? The hints have been provided by our senior members of the Theosophical Society and also by very respected founder, Madam H.P. Blavatsky and Madam Annie Besant, who was our second international president. Madam HPP shared as to how to study the secret doctrine. A student of her by name Robert Bowen in the year 1890. She passed away in 1891. So in the year 1890, a student of her by name Robert Bowen took down the notes as she was saying, as she was detailing, and checked with her whether he has noted it correctly. And most of the times, I believe he got a nod from her saying, yes, you noted it well. And he did not publish that book. And later on, much later, his son produced the book, or small pamphlet. I wouldn't say it's a book, it's a small pamphlet, How to Study Theosophy. That pamphlet is How to Study Theosophy. That was brought out by his son much later. HPB says one should not approach the secret doctrine. These are contents of that small pamphlet. HPB says one should not approach the secret doctrine as one which is giving the absolute final truth. Any descriptive theosophy means any book which gives theosophical ideas is not actually giving the truth, but the study of the descriptive theosophy may lead us towards truth, may lead us towards the truth, but it's not the truth. Descriptive theosophy may not be called the truth, but it may lead us to the truth. To study and understand the secret doctrine, or for that matter, any text of the Theosophical Society or Theosophical literature, HPB advised that the student should thoroughly understand the three fundamental propositions which she has given in the proem. She says, even if it takes years, the clear understanding of the three fundamental propositions is a must for study and understanding the secret doctrine and other valuable texts of the Theosophical literature. As already said, the secret doctrine is not giving the final word on Brahma Vidya. In fact, the secret doctrine gives only that portion of knowledge which the world was ready to receive and as permitted by her gurus or her masters. She says the occult hierarchy knows much more. Then, what shall we do? We shall undertake study keeping certain central ideas of theosophy in mind. These are all very important ideas which we know very, very frequently. We have been talking about it. There is that fundamental unity behind all existence is the first idea. There is that fundamental unity behind all existence. There is no dead matter. Every atom is alive is the second idea, central idea. Then third, man is the microcosm, universe is the macrocosm. Without studying the man, one cannot perhaps understand the universe. Fourth, as above, so below. As the inner, so is the outer. This is the maxim given by Hermes, the thrice greatest, who was also called the Tehuti. Then there is one life and one law. There is one life and one law. So these are the 5 or 4 central ideas which students are requested to keep in the back of their mind when they're studying. Both Madame Blavatsky and Annie Besant are against the idea of studying too much at one go, not proceeding to study, cover pages and pages and pages, but to study carefully and understand the contents by reflecting on those contents which have been read. So study carefully is the instruction given. We had one English General Secretary by name Miss Ianthe Hoskins. Most of you must have heard her name. She was the director at that point of time when she used to drop into our Vasanta Youth Lodge at Adyar. She was the director of the School of the Wisdom. And she has told us also, talking about how to study and various public speaking and all those things, she used to help us. And she said we should not aim, or we should not start saying, I'll cover 20 pages today. That's not the way to progress. That's not the way to study, she used to say. So the emphasis is on not how much we have studied, but how best we have studied, how the pages which you have chosen, or the portions we have chosen for study. If we rush too fast, HPP says somewhere that will damage the brain totally. So it's better to take it easy. She says further, study on one's own slowly. So don't consult others, don't go to a senior member or senior student of the sacred doctrine and find out what he has understood, because he will only give what he has understood. She's against that idea of approaching a senior student to understand his viewpoint. You do your study, self-study, slowly, progress slowly. That's what she says. Because his perspective will be like trying to look through his reading glasses. So don't depend on senior students, is what she has advised. Madam Annabesen says the right kind of study, should help one to develop intuition. Intuition. Study should help us to develop that faculty of intuition. Intuition belongs to the Buddhic plane or realm. So Madam Annabesen says, study for 10 minutes or even 5 minutes and reflect for 10 or 20 minutes. Study for 5 or 10 minutes, reflect on what was studied for 10 or 20 minutes. Study again that portion which you have reflected on for better understanding. And then write down the summary of what you understood. That is, reduce the understanding in your own words. Right. And she also says, be regular in your study, reflection, and recollection. Don't let it be in spurts. Today I study, but another week I will not study. It's not like that. Have study hours almost every day. I once asked Dr. NCR, in fact, he asked me, how many hours do you set apart for theosophical study? I told him 1 hour every day, another half an hour for certain other private reading of the other things which are mentioned. But he said, no, 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 you should at least read 2 hours. Why 1 hour? At least read 2 hours is the direction given by Dr. NCR, who passed away recently. So be regular in study, reflection, and recollection is what Madam Anna Besant had said. Meditative study or contemplative study will awaken the faculty of intuition. Mrs. Annabesen says, the empty space between the words which are there printed in a book, they're also trying to convey something to you. The empty space between the words in a printed book are also trying to convey something to you, and try to get at that ideas which are being thrown up. And one can perhaps through reflection, one could study how this word is leading to the next word after a gap which is there existing between those two words. So this is how perhaps the method of study is. And then we move on to the second aspect of our subject, meditation. Yes, all of us know what is meditation. We go to the second term, as we call it as meditation. The word meditation means to ponder over, to think deeply. Meditum, meditation, is the root word. I think it is Latin. Meditum is the root word. So meditation means to ponder over or to think deeply. The student or the aspirant, if you may like to call, who wants to evolve, is guided to the subject of meditation, or he is asked to meditate. And in the modern world, there are so many methods of meditation. Some methods are offered at a price. People take to meditation for various reasons. Many see it as a process to cure conditions like stress or hypertension. Some take it for the sake of relaxing the mind, and some take to meditation to develop that one-pointedness, to concentrate, say for example, on a game of tennis. John Bogue did this. So they take to meditation to develop that one-pointedness, concentration. So these are various reasons why people take to meditation. Some meditate to arrive at a state like serenity, peace, and joy. We have known the sages, they have done tapas or penance to get siddhis and astras, which are now called missiles, right? But we in the Theosophical Society suggest the newly joining member or a new member to meditate to understand oneself, to get in touch with the inner man, the real man, the eternal man. We introduce all these aspects carefully to the newly entering members, and we tell them what exactly one is supposed to do. It's not for any personal goals like relieving oneself from stress or things like that. But then the, the new member is asked to meditate to understand himself, oneself, to get in touch with the inner man, the real man, the eternal man. Theosophy tells us that man is a combination of personality, which we call the lower quaternary, and the higher permanent self, which which is called by us as upper triad. So we know it's a combination of the personality and the upper triad. So the upper triad has these three aspects, which are called Atma, Buddhi, and Manas. I'm remembering today, this evening, Dr. NCR used to call it MBA. Atma, Buddhi, Manas, they are the components of the upper triad. Meditation on the right lines, when done, paves the way to establish a connect or a contact with the higher self. We will reach at least the realms of the higher manas, which is the unifying force or unifying mind. And we know the lower mind is the divisive mind. So we'll move away from the grosser and the divisive mind, and through meditation, we would reach the realms of the higher mind. At least we can go up to this stage, surely, by constant practice of meditation. The second aim or purpose of meditation is to develop the clarity and simplicity, and gain an inkling of the upper triad, which is a unit of the universal self. So this is something which we need to understand as the real aim of meditation. Somehow, in the Theosophical Society, not much of stress or importance has been given so far to the subject of meditation. We have been asked to meditate by our elders, but there was no method as such suggested. Of course, we could always approach people who are on the path to suggest the ways. And my grandfather said, this is one method you may try. You may try. So broadly, we have left the meditation to the individual members' discretion. So, like, not many study seriously, not many members do this meditation also regularly. So, we have not conveyed the importance of meditation to the members. So, we don't teach a method of meditation like other schools do, as we don't want to typecast them. We don't want to typecast them. So, we allow them to evolve their own method. Not many members of the Theosophical Society have been explained the need for study and the necessity for meditation. and the commitment they should have for service. So these are three things which have been left unsaid, unexplained. People are expected to know all by themselves. So this is how we have been progressing. Instead of waiting for others to change, few of us as members of the Theosophical Society and in our lodges, let us voluntarily pledge ourselves to study, to meditate, and to serve. Getting back to the subject of meditation, I have detoured a bit. Getting back to the subject of meditation, the practice of meditation coupled with study can help members to understand the man's real nature. Vis-a-vis, he may also know what his role in the divine plan is. Members can understand the subjects. When there is a combination of study and meditation, all this is possible. He can understand his real nature vis-a-vis the divine plan. Members can also understand the subjects like the origin of the universe, the law of karma, etc., etc. Provided he is committed to study and has a meditative mind. Meditation will enable us to become one with nature. This is another aspect of meditation. Meditation will enable us to become one with the nature. To get the benefit out of meditation, a member has to meditate regularly. Mrs. Annibison says, even if it is for 5 minutes, do it regularly. Even if it is for just 5 minutes, do it regularly. It should be practiced regularly. What is that? Meditation should be practiced regularly. Preferably sitting in the same place, choosing the same time. And there are certain more rules which have been prescribed. For example, one has to have a good bath before meditation to wash off all the negative influences one might collect or receive on his physical body during sleep or onto his astral body during his sleep. So he has to take a bath. Remember, if he is not leading the right kind of life, the righteous life, his meditation will not prove to be purposeful. Remember, if he is not leading the right kind of life, the righteous life, his meditation will not be purposeful, will not prove to be purposeful. If one is not leading the right kind of life, it means if he is otherwise violent during his rest of the day and wants to meditate for 1 hour in the morning or 1 hour in the evening, it's not going to help him at all. So it is difficult to make or mark progress in meditation if the rest of the 23 hours or 22 hours, if one is meditating 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening, if the rest of the life is not righteous, helpful to the community as such, his meditation will not be fruitful. A meditator should continue to be in a contemplative meditative state even after he completes his meditation. This is something which is very, very useful tip given by our elders. A meditator should be continuing in that contemplative meditative state even in his daily life after completing his meditation. And one will carry this meditative experience or meditational experience into one's life. So what happens? A meditative person, person who is doing meditation, is always having a sound mind with a lot of clarity. A unhurried mind. There's no hurry in that mind. He's got time for everything. An unhurried mind. There's no hurry in that mind. A mind where there are no anxieties and fears. There are no anxieties and fears, especially the fear of death. We're using meditation to transcend the personality, isn't it? That's what we said. The personality has to be transcended. We go across the four and try to reach at least the higher mind. Yes. And we will learn to stay with that higher manas and carry that experience into our daily life. Mrs. Annie Besant talks of meditating on virtues. The process of meditating on virtues will purify the finer bodies and the nature of those bodies so that the virtues will become part of that person. The virtues will become an integral part of that person. So practice a virtue every month, she used to say. So this is one of the suggestions of Dr. Annie Besant. There is a method of meditation practiced by members based on theosophical teachings, which we just covered some time back briefly, especially the teachings related to man and his bodies. As we start the practice, we keep pronouncing or negating that I am not the physical body, I am not the etheric double, I am not the astral body, and I am not the lower mental body, which is the divisive body, the comparing body, the disintegrating body. So we keep on moving away from this place, at the same time cleansing those bodies as we keep moving and move towards the higher mental state. So this is one method which is suggested, and this was the method suggested to me by my grandfather. He said, you may try this, right? So there is this method which is practiced using the theosophical knowledge which we have regarding the man and his constitution and how we leave these coarser bodies and lift the consciousness to the higher mental status, which is, after all, the seat of oneness and unity. There are other methods available. For example, watching the mind and watching all the thoughts which keep entering the mind, and don't chase the thought, just allow the thought to die. And then the gap between one thought and another thought, when elongated, that process of finding that space between one thought and another thought, that's also a way in which one could reach the meditative state. So these are all the methods of meditation we have covered. Then I think I'll take up the last portion of the subject of this evening, which is service. We can serve others, only when we genuinely love others without choice. I love someone who loves me is a choice. I love without choice. So we can serve others when we genuinely love others. Genuinity should be there in love. Service or appearing to serve humanity for the sake of name and fame is not being considered here. A lot of people do alms, they give a lot of help, and they want that to be recognized, maybe advertised and things like that. We're not considering that sort of the service here. Through the act of service, one can serve those that deserve our help. The humanity which is reeling under pressures. When we are serving the man in a way, because all of us are connected and we are connected to that unity, we're in fact serving that universal self or the Almighty. So when we practice service, without projecting ourselves, not even having an iota of selfishness in that service, then that act will be considered as an act of altruism. This is what Madame Blavatsky says. So theosophy is nothing but altruism, is a statement. In the chapter titled The Practical Theosophy, Madame Blavatsky, in her book, The Key to Theosophy, talks about the serving of humanity. Serving of humanity. There are two components to it. One is serving the bodily needs, and the other is serving the soul. She says, yes, giving a glass of good drinking water for a man who is thirsty is a good act, a kind act, no doubt about it. But HPB always used to say, the serving the soul, helping the soul to realize is much greater service. And HPB laid stress on serving the soul. HPB says, to attend to the needs of the human beings, there are many organizations. To attend to the needs of the human beings, there are many organizations, but there are few organizations which are there, which are ready to serve the soul. And one such organization is the Theosophical Society. HPB talks about, we are all familiar with this, the head learning and the soul wisdom in the book, The Voice of the Silence. So she lays a lot of importance on trying to educate the soul, help the soul, and she believes that that service is a superior and long-lasting service. So any action or thought which is done to help the soul doesn't just help in this life, the soul in this life, but the soul is helped for the rest of its life till it reaches perhaps perfection. So any action or thought generated with an act generated with a view to help humanity, any action or thought generated with a view to help humanity, and humanity here we may say it includes all living beings, that is the service which we are expected to do in the Theosophical Society. We have to generate goodwill. We have to help those people who need our help, preferably help the soul, help the body also if it is possible, yes. But we need to realize service is not just feeding those who are hungry, but helping the soul will help the persons more. So this is what Madame Blavatsky had to say about service. HPB also said one has to be careful while serving. She gives an example of Father Damien in the book, The Key to Theosophy. He worked so much for his good. That means he went headlong to serve people who are suffering from leprosy, and he became a victim of leprosy and passed away. So she says one has to be careful in the sense how best he can last himself so that he can help more number of people. So this is something also which she has conveyed in the book, The Key to Theosophy. To serve better, we have to last better, and we have to serve the soul and the body. The choice is ours. Choosing to serve the soul definitely is a better method of service. The wise ones, the masters, are not moving away as we have seen some time back, but they're engaged in working for the welfare of humanity. So we should also partake happily to lift a bit of this heavy karma of the world. we should also partake very happily, voluntarily, to lift the heavy karma of the world. So we should be ready to help wherever there is an opportunity. So a wise man said once, a wise man, I'm not referring to the master. If you look for opportunities, God gives you 10 opportunities every 5 minutes. This is what he said. So don't think that there are no opportunities to help. There are always opportunities to help. Only that you should keep your eyes skinned. Then there are a lot of opportunities for you to help. This is what he told me long time back. Number of authors talk of doing good things on the sly. Means not many should notice that I have helped somebody, even if it's a material help. Not many should notice that I've helped. But a lot of people do advertise what they have helped. This is the modern way of helping. And Bhartruhari, in one of the Subhashitams, also talks of giving help without anybody noticing it. But then he says, if you have received help, acknowledge it openly. When you do help on the sly, means nobody notices that you help. If you have to acknowledge the help received, you receive it and you acknowledge it openly. This is what Bhartruhari had to say, because he was someone who gave a lot of subhashitas, good words for people to follow. There is a Marwadi businessman whom I know by name Rajendra Kumar Jain. He's a Marwadi gentleman who looked for a lot of advertisement and things like that. But this gentleman was a different kettle of fish. So he used to help a lot of poor students, and he used to supply packing material to the pharmaceutical companies. And whenever he goes to a company, he will choose those people who are working as perhaps the persons who will carry messages or people who are working at the lowest strata of that company. And he would pick those students of those parents, and he would say, I'm helping your students or your children, but don't let them know that I have helped them. I don't want to see them. Please also don't mention my name saying that I have helped them. You take these books or you take these uniforms and say, these are given to you. You need not say who has given it to you. So this is how the Rajendra Kumar Jain used to help on this sly. I believe this is the best method to help and serve. And sometimes even helping the needy through the organization we have, the TOS, the Theosophical Order of Service. We do it for reporting, do it for the report's sake. We don't do it for the sake of the action which is behind or the thought which is behind, but we would like somebody to photograph us as we're giving apples in the hospital and things like that. I think this is something which you should move away from. So if you do service and really help, which will certainly alleviate the suffering, that will go a long way to help the humanity or for all the living creatures in this world. We have to establish that the giver and the receiver is part of the whole. We have to understand this. The receiver and the giver belongs to that whole. My guru, who taught me Ramayana, used to say, if the taker is not there at your doorstep, to whom you will give? If the taker is not there at your doorstep, to whom you will give? So in fact, he's doing you a help by coming to your home and asking for help. So treat him well with a lot of respect and regard. That's what he used to tell me. And we have practiced that in our home. We treat them as special guests who come to help us because they're not seeking help, they're helping us. In a way, we have considered study, meditation, and service and they all these three go hand in hand. All these three go hand in hand. If you have study and you don't have meditation, or you don't have the mind to serve, it will not work out well. So study, meditation, and service, they go hand in hand. We'll do well as members of the Theosophical Society to commit ourselves to study, to meditate, and to serve. Thank you.
Brother N.C. Krishna ji, you have taken the most practical topic that is of day-to-day need to each of us. Thank you. You have very clearly and elaborately explained to the core of SMS, study, meditation, and service. And in nutshell, we can say you have stressed the needs of the humanity in all aspects of SMS, which Masters of Wisdom and Theosophy teaches. This is a very, very important point. Now I open forum and ask anybody who want to add something or who has any question, please ask Krishna ji. Whatever question or whatever you want to add, please do. If there is nobody want to say anything or there is no question, if
Yes,
something, okay, yes, हाँ बोलिए जी बोलिए.
I'm शीतल कोले फ्रॉम नागपुर. धन्यवाद कृष्णा जी, आपने मेरी सुनाई आ रहा है
हाँ
ना?
आवाज आ रही है, थोड़ी सी स्लो है.
हाँ हाँ, नहीं नहीं, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. आप सर्विस के बारे में जो भी बता रहे थे मेरे सामने एट द फीट ऑफ द मास्टर के वर्डिंग्स आ रहे थे. गुरुदेव के वर्ड्स है, वो बार बार बोलते नहीं हैं, और जो भी वो बोल रहे थे वो कृष्ण जिजू जी ने इतने अच्छे ढंग से लिखे हैं कि वो सब याद आ रहे थे. और सर्विस टू द सोल, ये हम सब काफ़ी सीखना है और भी, क्योंकि काफ़ी हद तक हम लोग यही करते हैं कि फीड द रीडी ऐसा. तो उसमें से हमको थोड़ा ऊपर उठना है. लेकिन ये बात भी सही है कि जब तक पेट पूजा नहीं होगी तब तक भगवान की भी पूजा नहीं होती है. तो इससे हमने अ, इन बातों को भी याद रखना है. तो बहुत अच्छा लगा. थैंक यू वेरी मच. आपने खुद के सोचों में से ये सब निकाल के हमारे सामने पेश किया है, उसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
थैंक यू कृष्णा जी. आप could you understand Sheetal Gole? She is saying in Hindi
Yeah.
that she is reminding your talk has reminded at the feet of the master, and she is very much inspired. That's what she's told.
Oh, yes.
It's really wonderful your talk today, and it can be, I mean, heard again, because it's very nice that you have made a labor for us and taken so many things from here and there. And this is our day-to-day practical aspect you have taken. It's every theosophist need in day-to-day life. So once again, thank you. Anybody else want to share or say something?
Yes. Somebody is wanted to
हाँ
raise
हाँ
his hand.
हाँ हाँ. दिवाकर जी अपना माइक ऑन कीजिए, आपका माइक अभी ऑफ है. दिवाकर जी आप सुन पा रहे हैं? शशि एस वाई दिवाकर जी हैं हमारे फेडरेशन के प्रेसिडेंट. दिवाकर
Oh,
जी आर यू एबल टू हियर अस? हेलो.
yes. His
हाँ हाँ.
now he's open. Yeah.
Things are there in my mind. Dr. Any Besant says that too much study will confuse you. So, as regards to study, how much should we study? Mike, with this question arises.
Yeah. I think she has made it very clear in her books. For example, The Thought Power, if you have considered that book anytime,
Yes.
and so many other places, she says it's not the number of pages which really matters. So she talks in terms of time. If you study for 10 minutes, maybe 1.5 page or 1.5 paragraph, reflect the double amount of time on reflection, spend double amount of time on reflection. So that's how one progresses in study slowly. So that's how she has said. So you may not be able to finish a book. Even people think that the book which was referred by Madam, At the Feet of the Master, is a very simple book, but it is deceptively simple. It is not simple. People think it's a simple book. People even offer that as the first book to be read in the Theosophical Society. But no, the first book to be read in the Theosophical Society perhaps should be their textbook on theosophy or key to theosophy. But so this is how we go about. But even those sentences which are there and At the Feet of the Master, they're worth meditating for a long time, isn't it? Or for that matter, anything which is there in the textbook of theosophy also, suppose it is talking about the constitution of man, one has to understand by studying that and contemplating on it, assimilating and internalizing that fact into his system. I think that's how one has to progress in
Chris,
study slowly.
my question is beautifully answered by you.
Thank you, Devakar ji. Thank you, Krishna ji.
Sir.
Uh, now, if nobody wants to say anything or there is no question, so we may sum up
Yes.
and we may say next topic on next Saturday will be astral plane and astral body, part 7. And the speaker will be Dr. Rajiv Gupta, our lodge secretary, and he is also now national lecturer. So time will be the same, 5:30 to 6:30 next Saturday. Thank you, brother Krishna ji.
Thank you. I should
We'll
thank you.
again, we'll
I should
again.
thank you for giving me an opportunity.
Yes,
Sorry,
definitely we'll again because yeah,
sorry,
Shishma ji.
Rajiv ji.
Shishma ji.
In the beginning, I was thinking we have listened so many time on this topic. What will you say the new one? But you have thrown a new dimension. It was really very, very beneficial lecture for us. Just I wanted to add a quotation which I have read somewhere. The service we render to others is really the rent we pay for our room on this earth. And the second, Gandhiji has said that the platform of service is as big as the world and it is never overcrowded. So, N.C. Krishna ji, you have thrown a new dimension. I have personally benefited a lot. I am thankful to you. I am very grateful to you. I have noted your lecture. So, because you have pointed out some new points. So, thank you so much. And thank you, Rajiv ji, for organizing such a good lecture. Thank you so much, Krishna ji.
Thank you, Sushma ji.
Thank you, Sushma ji. Thank you, brother N.C. Krishna and everybody else
Right.
who has attended it. And now we'll play Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Na Kaschid Dukh Bhag Bhavet Om Shanti Shanti